If a cinema producer were to make a movie of your life and show it to the world, what moment would you prefer to keep to yourself? This is the part that you're not owning about yourself. These moments are often tied to shame, guilt, or vulnerability, times when we were not at our best, when we hurt other people, or when we didn't live up to our own values or expectations. So how do we get to a place where we finally decide that the stories and moments from our past don't define who we are and who we are becoming, and finally own this part of ourselves that we judge as dark? What if rejecting your darkness is what keeps you stuck in this moment and prevents you from facing and transmuting your fears into love? So in this video, I'm going to teach you how to stop letting the darkness control you and transform it into something greater. So, what's your story? And how do you identify yourself with this story? When thinking about my own movie, I thought about the moments when I hurt people, when I lied, when I cheated, when I said things not in a very diplomatical way. I thought about my teenagers when I had a very difficult relationship with my mom and that I didn't know how to behave in a very loving way. Those are the things that I would rather have preferred to hide from you and from my movie. And I will have rather preferred to play the victim in the movie, because when you act like a victim, people are here for you. I would rather have shown the difficult and challenging moments I lived so people can like me. Then I thought that it's interesting for me to be okay with being a victim in a movie, but it's not when I also show people that I can also be the bad guy. And how interesting it is for me to label myself and past actions as bad and negative. Because this is how I used to define myself. I've done this in my life, I have lied, I have cheated, etc., etc. And so I am a bad person. I was allowing my past actions to define me as a bad person. So what's your story and how do you identify yourself with it? What labels have you unconsciously accepted based on your past actions? How do you identify yourself with the event that happened for you in your life? For example, someone who has lied may believe that he is now a liar. I have lied, so I am a liar. I didn't ask for what I wanted, so I am weak. I've been ghosted, so I am not enough. I've cheated, so I am a bad person. Any word that you consciously or unconsciously place after I am defines who you believe yourself to be. But here's the truth. You are not your behavior. And by acknowledging how you define yourself, you are taking the first step towards transformation. So as sometimes this can be unconscious, it is important to put the light on the way you define yourself, because we can't accept what we don't know. And as a practice, I really invite you to reflect on your past actions and the judgment that you put on these actions. Challenge the belief you impose on yourself and the belief that others impose on you. One day someone told me, a cheater will always be a cheater. And I took some time to reflect on this judgment, because obviously this was a judgment, not a fact. And this judgment was basically sentencing a lot of people on earth. And then I started to think about other labels that we could say instead. Like, a people pleaser will always be a people pleaser. Someone who lied will always be a liar. A jealous person will always be jealous. A procrastinator will always be a procrastinator. And then I started to question this sentence without having it define me, right? So I've asked myself, well, who say that? Always? Really? Do I choose to believe this? How do I decide to define myself moving forward? Because if I choose to believe this, I am indeed sentencing myself to stay and behave this way, because this is how I define myself. So how do you decide to define yourself starting from now? This is where change starts, when we do have the willingness to look at our past actions without defining our future actions. Another key point to own your darkness is to recognize your inner polarity. Everything in nature exists in polarity: day and night, creation and destruction, life and death. So why do we expect ourselves to be any different? The truth is, you are both light and dark. You have the power to love, to heal, to create, but you also have the power to harm, to manipulate, to betray, and to destroy. And this is not bad, it just is. And this is part of the human experience that we are all living here on earth. And a lot of people perceive this and label it as negative, rejecting the fact that they also have this capacity for destruction within themselves. But by rejecting it, they also reject polarity and the opportunity to transmute the dark into light. We are taught that we need to suppress the part of ourselves that make us feel uncomfortable. We deny our anger, our jealousy, our desire for control. But here's what most people don't realize. What we suppress doesn't disappear. It controls us from the shadows. Think about a romantic relationship. We expect them to be full of love, connection, and loyalty. But what about the moment of doubt, frustration, or even attraction to someone else? A woman loves her partner, but after years together, she sometimes wonders, what if I had chosen differently? And then guilt hits immediately. And so she starts thinking, if I really loved him, I wouldn't think this way. And so she suppresses. And same for a man who is deeply committed, but he feels unappreciated. So he finds himself drawn to someone who gives him attention. And so he pushes the feeling away, thinking, I shouldn't feel this way. And this is polarity: love and doubt, commitment and temptation, existing together. Both are real. But here's the thing, we are taught to suppress our emotions that don't fit our ideal image of love. We push them down, but they don't disappear. They control us from the shadows. So the woman who ignores her doubt might start resenting her partner. The man who suppresses his attraction might seek validation in secret ways. So here, radical acceptance means recognizing that I can love my partner and still experiencing desire or doubt. And commitment doesn't mean never feeling tempted. It means choosing love despite it. And ignoring emotion doesn't make them disappear. It makes them harder to control. So ask yourself, what part of me do I reject the most? What actions or behavior I don't want other people to be aware of? How do you want others to see you? What emotions do I label as wrong or bad? This is why it's so important to reframe our emotions as teachers. Here's the thing, emotions are neutral, thoughts are neutral until we give them a meaning. It's our judgment that makes them good or bad. Take anger, for example. Most people see anger as destructive, something to avoid, but anger is just energy. That energy can be used to lash out and hurt others, or it can be transformed into passion, courage, and strength. What if instead of rejecting your emotion, you simply observe them? Instead of saying, I should feel this way, say to yourself, I notice that I feel this way. I notice that I feel jealous. I notice that I feel anger. Acknowledging what you judge as dark or negative will allow you to transform it into light. Think about it. That anger, it can be power. That desire for control, it can become discipline. That jealousy, it can become inspiration. Fear and anxiety, it can become courage. And the beauty of polarity is that you can feel both. You can feel jealous and inspired. You can feel love and anger. You can feel powerful and powerless. This is why we're here on earth, to experience all of this. And the key is awareness. When you feel something that you label as dark rising, don't suppress it. Pause, feel it, breathe into it, and ask yourself, how can I use this energy in a way that aligns with my highest purpose? Maybe this frustration or this anger shows you that it is time to set clear boundaries, and by implementing them, you will claim your power back. Maybe this fear shows you it is time to trust, and by doing so, you will open yourself to new possibilities or growth. Choose to see those emotions and past actions as teachers without letting them define who you are today and who you want to become tomorrow. Another important point to put light on the shadows is to understand projection. So, have you ever met someone who constantly accuses others of being manipulative, saying like, well, I can't trust people. Yet, they themselves are the most controlling person in the room. In this case, the person accusing others of manipulation may be completely blind to their own manipulative behaviors. When someone is controlling, they are essentially manipulating a situation to ensure it unfolds in their favor. They are trying to influence others, but in a more covert way. So the controlling person feels the need to dominate or dictate outcomes. They accuse others of manipulation because they fear being manipulated themselves or even losing control. And this fear mirrors their own internal struggle. They are afraid of being powerless, so they project their own need for control onto others, accusing them of the very thing that they fear. And so this is a clear case of projection, when someone's fear or insecurity leads them to point fingers at other people while avoiding acknowledging their own behaviors. And it's easier for them to blame someone else than to look within and confront the desire for controls that they have inside. So you can put light on your shadows by asking yourself and journaling or having a conversation with someone talking about that around the following questions. What am I judging in other people? What triggers me in others? And where am I acting this way in other areas of my life? Do I exhibit this trait in some way, and even if it's something very subtle? Do I fear to be seen this way if I act the same way? And then you want to acknowledge all of this without judgments. And there is a practice exercise that I love that is based on Carl Jung's work, which is imagining a dialogue between your conscious mind and your shadow self. So the idea is to sit in a quiet space, close your eyes, and visualize your shadow as a person, an animal, or an entity. And I visualize mine as Scream, like the Scream from the horror movies, because I've always been terrified by this horror movie, and I don't know, I just imagine Scream as my shadow. And so the idea is to ask your shadow some question like, what do you want from me? Why do you show up in my life? And how can I integrate you? And so you can do this exercise by visualizing it, or you can also do it by journaling it. I also love writing, and something you can do is write a letter to your shadow side by starting to say, dear shadow side, and then you write down your letter and you let your shadow reply. So at the end of the day, radical acceptance means owning all of you, the light, the dark, the love and the rage, the beauty and the mess. And when you stop fighting yourself, something incredible happens. You stop living in fear of your own mind. You stop needing external validation. You stop being controlled by your past. You become free. Remember, your darkness is not your enemy, it's your teacher. Embrace it and you'll find your true power.